Hovind, you have completely ignored genome sequencing. Now this is going to take a while, but I have been wanting to kick this dog for a long time. What is this genome sequencing they're talking about? You completely ignore the genome sequencing data observed over the last 3 years. You are out of date. You ignore and completely the detailed phylogenetic observation written way before Linnaeus. Does not make it correct. This is a logical fallacy. I'm amazed you still don't know how stars are formed. Gravity. We could take 3 days on any one of these. Now listen carefully, Robert. Gravity is not going to pull a bunch of dust together to make a star. Zero probability. It's never been observed. It's not science. This is your religion. I'm going to leave that one for another night. I don't have time tonight, but we can take it up if you'd like. Bring it up in another question. We're still letting you make your dumb comments on our YouTube channel. Okay. Genome sequencing is, according to genomenewsnetwork.org, is the figuring out the order of the DNA nucleotides. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. That is the instructions to make you. How many lines of code are there in a computer program?
Not nearly as many in DNA.
Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, right? Okay. The lines of code to create you is your DNA. You got half from your mother and half from your father. Ask your mom to explain it to you, okay? So, figuring out the order of the DNA nucleotides or bases in a genome. The order of A, C, Gs, and Ts. I told my students CAT, C-A-T-G is an easier way to memorize it. There are 4 different types of bases, C-A-T-G. Now, in computer language, it's only binary. There's only 2, zeros and ones. But in the DNA code, there are 4, C-A-T-G, which means it's about 1 trillion times more complicated. Our English language has 26 letters. How many possible combinations are there of those 26 letters? Nearly infinite, right? Okay. So, the human genome is made up of over 3 billion genetic letters. Imagine a book with 3 billion letters in it. That'd be a pretty good sized book, okay? I think the Bible has 750,000 letters. 750,000, I think is correct, in the whole Bible. Less than 1 million. Can you find out? And okay. 750,000, something like that. Anyway, so maybe that's words. How many letters in the Bible? Maybe it's a couple million. But this is 3 billion with a B. Okay, you got million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion, septillion, octillion, novillion, decillion, all the way to centillion if you'd like. We can count as high as you'd like. Okay, so they're saying they're figuring out the order of the letters of the code. Oh, interesting. Nucleic acids consist of a chain of links called nucleotides. The possible letters are A, C, G, and T. Does it have how many letters? Anna?
It's still loading.
It's still loading, a big old number. Okay. Representing the 4 nucleotide bases of the DNA strand. And here they are right here, A, C, T, G. Okay. Covalent, they're linked with a covalent bond, okay? The sharing electron. Linked to a common backbone. So you have all the different C-A-T-G letters all linked to the common backbone and then twisted in the spiral. The genetic code, the DNA, the information to make you. And they have these sequences in letters. Is it C-A-T-G or C-G-T-A or C-A-A-A-C-T-G? It can be, and it's all spelling a different word, a different bit of information. Yes?
3.5 million.
3.5 million letters in the Bible. Okay. So the 750,000 was the number of words. Okay. 3.5 million letters. The code to make you has 3 billion, which is nearly 1,000 times more than there are letters in the Bible. Okay, so they compare the sequence of these letters. Humans, chimps, gorillas, and orangutans, they've looked at the sequence. Look at the order. Is it C, T, C, 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 G, A? Compared to what's in the other creature. Okay, now there are 4 different ways you can compare this. Robert Oppenheimer. You can look at the similarity of how many base pairs are there. In the case, humans have 3 billion. Bacteria have 4.6 million. So humans have about, what would that be, 700 times more. Okay. You could look at the number, how many base pairs do they have? Okay. Or you could look at simply how many chromosomes they have. Total number of chromosomes. Humans have 46. The mouse has 40. A plant might have 10. A certain plant here. Let's see. Rhododendron has 12. So are we going to compare the chromosome number, or are we going to compare the base pairs? Bacteria only has one chromosome, one, okay. Or should we look at the estimated gene count? Humans have about 25,000 genes, okay? Whereas plants might have 25,000 also. Wow, proof we're related to the plant. If you want to arrange all the creatures, all the life forms in the world based on this, you're going to get a very different chart than if you base them on this. And you're going to get a different chart if you base them on this. So they're picking the one they want that matches their stupid theory the best, that we all came from a rock 4.6 billion years ago, which came from a magic dot of nothing that exploded. I am tired of putting up with it. I guess you can tell. Okay, here's an example. Homo sapien, that would be man. It is A, T, G, G, C, 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 T, G, T, G, G, and they sequence. They paid somebody to do this. Sit there and write all this out, okay. Then you've got the different creatures down. Here's the gorilla. Here's his sequence. And here's the Canis lupus. Oh, wow, the dog, okay. And they've got all, oh, there's a different one. Look, we got a G and they've got a C. Oh, the dog is different than a human. You had to look through a microscope to figure that out? Are you dumb in any other area? Or is this the only area you're stupid in? Come on. So they give the sequence of, they're simply making the sequence of all the letters. And then determining how similar they are. Okay. Example. Humans and chimps. Look at this. G, C, 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 A, T, A, A, C, C, A, C. And the chimps are, oh, wow, they got a difference with the T and the G. Look at that.
But what part are they even comparing? And if there's
Out of the 3 billion.
Yeah,
what are they? That's the whole point. They're comparing little slices of it, finding. I would predict, without even knowing about DNA, that there would be similarities in the code to make a human and the same code to make a chimpanzee, because we both have, like, 2 eyes on the front of the head and 2 ears on the side of the head and a mouth and a digestive system, and there are probably millions of similarities. Okay, so it would require similar code to make those parts. Does that prove common ancestor or common creator? Think about it if you're capable, okay? How about this one? One little change. Woman, without her, man is nothing. How about woman, without her, man is nothing? Same letters, changed the comma to a different place. Well, the top line has 35 lines and spaces. The bottom line has 35 characters, lines, and spaces, and a punctuation. So they're nearly 100% similar, but they mean something totally different, don't they? A woman without her man is nothing. They asked a college professor for the students to said to students, put the punctuation in. All the men wrote, a woman, comma, without her man, comma, is nothing. All the women wrote, a woman, colon, without her man is nothing. Same words, slightly different, little bitty, 0.01% change, and has a totally different meaning. Okay? Consider the following pairs of sentences. John is easy to please. John is eager to please. Just a couple letters difference. Totally different meaning, right? Top line has 27 letters. The bottom line has 26 letters and characters. It's time to eat, comma, children, or it's time to eat children. You think maybe those have different meanings? With one comma missing? One comma. It's time to eat children. Oh, really? Do they taste good? So yes, one little tiny bit of DNA code could make a really big difference, okay? Let's eat, Grandpa, or let's eat, Grandpa. Is it let's eat, comma, Grandpa, or just let's eat, Grandpa?
Well, depends where you're from.
Depends where you're from, yeah, okay. How about eat your dinner is not the same as eat your dinner. Think about it long and hard, Robert, okay? These little tiny changes just in our simple English language can obviously make huge differences. So sometimes similar lines of similar sentences with one little minor difference might mean something totally different. It's the same in the DNA code. God is so smart, he wrote a code base 4. Yeah, 4 different instead of just base 2 like our crazy little simple computers that use just zeros and ones. Oh no, God did it with 4. Trillion times more complicated. Now, sometimes things have zero similarity, but they do or say exactly the same thing. I love you very much. Please come home. Je t'aime beaucoup. S'il te plaît, viens à la maison. Identical, but it's in French now. Ich liebe dich so sehr, bitten komm nach Haus. I love you, come home. Oh, yes. Yes. No wonder the Germans lost the war, right? Okay. Here it is in Spanish. Here it is in Russian, Chinese, Norwegian. Same message. How many letters would be similar? Not too many. But they're saying the same thing. So it is not correct to say we can line up the CATG and find a sequence and make it mean anything, that we're only 10% different than this animal, therefore we're related. That's how they're figuring out these stupid phylogenetic trees and where to draw the line. That's how they're doing it. Sometimes one sentence can make totally different meanings based on the inflection. I never said Bill stole the money. I never said Bill stole the money from the store. I never said Bill stole the money from the store. I never said Bill stole the money from the store. I never said Bill stole the money from the store. I never said Bill stole the money from the store. He stole it from the bank. Each one is a totally different meaning. Same, identical sentence. 100% identical. Totally different meaning, just simply based on the inflection. There's such a thing as recessive genes. The gene is there, but it's not expressed that generation. It might come out 5 generations later. Now, the textbooks are going to say we have evidence from molecular biology, which is what our nuclear physicist wannabe here is telling us here. Evidence from molecular biology. DNA, Darwin speculated that all forms of life are related through descent with modification from earliest organisms. This speculation has been verified. Oh, really? That textbook's right on that shelf over, I forget, it doesn't matter. But I got all these textbooks here. And I taught biology for years, and most of my I have some 2017 textbooks over here, but most of my stuff is, they put me in prison 10 years, okay? I didn't collect textbooks during that time. Okay, so this is one of the lies in the textbooks from my video number 4. Lies in the textbooks. And you can get this and give, if you know any kid going to public school, any kid going to public school, buy a stack of these from our ministry and pass them out to every kid. And say, kid, I'll give you $10 if you'll watch this. This one right here has helped hundreds of thousands of public school kids. It's also part of our seminar series if you want to get the whole thing for $50. But if you want to get just singles and give them out to anybody, go wait at the bus stop when the kids are going to get ready to get on the bus and give them one. It might save their life, okay? Okay. The DNA, the chromosome, the deoxyribonucleic acid, is the most complex molecule in the universe. Incredibly complex. It's not only just little lines of code, the CATG. They are twisted up, and then further twisted, and then further twisted. And they not only act with each other across the rungs of the ladder, they act with the one they touch above it. It's a code written in 3D.
But they're missing the whole point, though, because even if the code is in the right order, without the RNA to read it and understand it...
That's another whole level of complexity.
Yeah.
But the DNA code is incredibly complex. It's a gross oversimplification to say that DNA has only 4 basic parts. Each of these parts is also incredibly complex. So it's a phenomenally complex molecule. This is the code to make life, right there. The average human has about 50 trillion cells in their body. 50 trillion with a T. The total from all of the DNA out, if you extracted every cell in your body has 46 of these chromosome strands, except for the gametes, they got 23. If you extracted all that chromosome material, it would barely fill 2 tablespoons. But each one of those, and there's 46 in each cell, and you have 50 trillion cells, each one of those little DNA strands, if you unwound it and stretched it out, would be 6 feet long. That's one strand of code out of a whole bunch to make you. If you unwound the DNA code just out of one person and tied them end to end and stretched them out, the chromosomes from one person would go from Earth to the moon and back 550,000 round trips to the moon. That's the instructions to make you. Maybe that's why David said, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And he didn't have a microscope. He knew nothing about DNA, but he's smart enough to know he's fearfully and wonderfully made. You would think now, with all of our microscopes, we'd be even more praising God for what he did. This is incredible. The code in the chromosomes is far more complex and holds more information than all computer programs ever written by man combined.
So it makes you wonder how much they've really compared.
Right. Even Bill Gates said DNA is like software program, but it's much more complex than anything we've been able to design. Okay? IBM models its newest computers after DNA. The quantity of information is so vast, we have to invent new numbers to measure it. Not just terabytes or petabytes, but exabytes, yottabytes, and zettabytes. All the words ever uttered by everyone who has ever lived would amount to 5 exabytes. The DNA code is so complex. If you typed out the DNA code from one person, the information from one person's DNA would fill enough books to fill Grand Canyon 78 times. That's the information to make you, Robert, and me. I may actually have a little more because I'm a little more than 50 trillion cells now, okay, because that butter pecan ice cream, okay. David said, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. From birth to conception, the baby adds about 15,000 cells per minute to its body. Each one of those cells is more complex than a space shuttle. You want to follow the development of the baby, how it follows the 7 feasts of Israel? See the 7 feasts of Israel by Zola Levitt, that is levitt.com. Phenomenal. The stages of growth of the baby follow the 7 feasts. Whoa, okay, that's another whole story. The probability of just one DNA evolving by chance has been calculated to be 1 in 10 to the 119,000th power. That's a big number when you figure the whole visible universe is 10 to the 28th inches in diameter. Think about that for 10 minutes, okay? Even with DNA sequence data, we have no direct access to the process of evolution, so objective reconstruction of the vanished past can be achieved only by creative imagination. Yes, Robert and Corner Staple, it is pure imagination to think that DNA sequencing or phylogenetic trees, you can be like SpongeBob and imagine all you want, but it's not science, okay? Mitochondria